What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday. It's your girl Mel of Divine Feminine Works. And as always, I hope that this video or this live, depending on when you're catching this, is finding you in excellent spirits. All right. So if you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. This channel is everything tarot, astrology, spirituality, and manifestation. So if those are the things you like, if those are the things you love, if those are the things you want to learn more about, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell. So you'll always be notified when I come out with new content. And speaking of content, head over to Instagram and hit that follow button. I've got loads of excellent daily content. Plus, I go live every Thursday night at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time to do live readings by sign. So head over there so you don't miss any of that great stuff. All right, so that was a mouthful for an introduction. All right, so as I said, happy Sunday. Welcome to the weekly Astro forecast where I give you all the information you need to know concerning the astrology for the week ahead. All right, so before we get to where we're going in terms of this coming week, why don't we talk about what last week was like? Because I feel like one of the best ways to learn astrology is by case studies. So it's not always about like forecasting the future, but more so taking a look at the past, looking at patterns, and really seeing how the planetary energy affects us in real life. Okay, so last week we had quite a bit of shifts, right? So we had Venus moving into Pisces. We had Mars conjunct Saturn. We had Mercury conjunct Saturn. We had Mercury sextile Saturn, Mercury sextile Mars. And then today we've got a lot of stuff going on. So I'm filming this on April 10th, Sunday, April 10th. So today we have Mercury moving into Taurus. We've got Mercury square to Pluto and the moon moving into Leo. So I know that was a mouthful. That was a lot, but let me sort of break it down into digestible pieces. So last week we had Venus moving into its sign of exaltation, Pisces. So when it came to relationships, I feel like relationships and money, I feel like a lot of us were starting to get a little more positive energy in those areas of our lives. A lot of us became emotionally triggered concerning those areas because, Pisces is a very emotional and sensitive sign. And with Venus, we're talking about love, money, relationships. So a lot of us may had emotions concerning those things sort of coming up to the surface in order to be addressed. I also said last week that whenever we're talking about Pisces, it can really be, I'm not going to say a trigger, but it can really heighten our senses, particularly our psychic senses, telepathy, things like that. But it also can induce a lot of addictive behaviors. So many of us may have found that when it came to, let's say, let me give you a perfect example of like relationships, right? Many of us may have been like trying to get as much information as we can. So you may have been watching 1,000,001 YouTube videos or things like that, or really just focusing on, love or money. Some of us may really have been feeling a lot of those emotions. Some of us may have love on the brain. A lot of repressed emotions concerning love may have come up to the surface. So needless to say, I feel like last week was a very emotional week. I know it definitely was for me. We also had some sort of wonky energy to deal with, particularly with Mars conjunct Saturn. That sort of gave rise to criticism, to negative thinking, and that may have been how many of us started last week. So let me know in the comments what last week was like for you. Was it extra sensitive? Did you experience a lot of criticism or negative self-talk? Again, leave a comment down below and let me know how last week was for you. All right. So without further ado, now that we sort of talked about where we came from, now let's talk about where we're going this week astrologically. Okay. So this week, on Tuesday, we have the Sun Sextile Saturn. We have sort of the star aspect of the week, which is Jupiter conjunct Neptune in Pisces. Then that same day, we have the moon going into Virgo, which is going to be opposite Venus and Mars. All right. Moving right along, on Thursday, we have Mars transiting into Pisces, and this is the sort of the last planet that's going to enter Pisces for the month, and it's going to have this very powerful stellium of Pisces energy. So that should be very interesting. All right. We also have the moon in Libra, which is going to be opposite Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces, and also trine Pluto. So a lot going on Thursday. Then Saturday, we also have sort of the second star of the show this week. We've got the full moon in Libra, which is going to be jam-packed with not only relationship issues, but opportunity for transformation on a very personal level. That night, the moon is going to move into Scorpio, and things are going to get a little extra intense in, the very scorpionic sort of fashion. And then finally, we start next week on Sunday with Mercury sextile Venus, which is a very sort of nice feel-good sort of aspect. So it's a great way to sort of wind down with the weekend and start the week, all right? So I know that I tend to be hyper-technical when it comes to talking about astrology. I can't help it. I'm a Virgo. I'm all about details, right? And so if you're new to astrology, or even if you've been studying astrology, but you haven't really taken a deep dive into it, I'm like throwing around all of these terminologies, some words you've never heard of. So it can be a little confusing. And as a matter of fact, I've gotten some comments on some of my previous videos about how my interpretations or my explanations can be a bit confusing. So in an effort to dispel any of your confusion and get you on the right track in terms of astrology, I've put together this Astrology Basics cheat sheet, which is going to give you everything that you need to know to get started in understanding astrology. It's got the houses, the planets, the signs, giving you a little preview right here, all of the explanations, all of the buzzwords, the glyphs, the symbology that you need in order to understand astrology a little better, all right? So I think this is great. It's 11 pages of excellent Astrology Basics information. And if you're looking to download this, the link is in the description box below. So definitely click on that and get your life when it comes to learning astrology, all right? So without further ado, let's get into the week. So like I said, nothing going on Monday. But on Tuesday, we've got 3 things going on. And the first is the Sun Sextile Saturn. Now, what I like about this particular transit is that it allows you to be very conscious of your ambitions, your life purpose, and your goals. Because we've got the Sun in Aries, and the Sun happens to be exalted in the sign of Aries. So it's treated like a king, and it's very potent. The energy of the Sun is very potent. Aries, being a cardinal fire sign, is really about starting new things in a very bold and dynamic way. And with the Sun exalted in Aries, sextile to Saturn in Aquarius, this is like getting your mind right in terms of where you're trying to go, okay? It's very ambitious. The energy surrounding this transit is very ambitious. It's also ambitious and goal oriented are the same thing. So I don't know why I'm repeating myself, but you sort of get the gist, right? It's also about like a sense of duty and obligation. So I feel like a lot of us are going to be very cognizant of what obligations we need to fulfill, sort of our everyday duties. But I also feel like in terms of ambition and goal setting, it's almost like you're going to be taking a very practical approach to it. And I feel like you're going to be aware of really what it takes in order to get to where you want to go. Again, very ambitious energy, very driven energy also. So you're going to want to be productive on this day. You're going to want to start something new, perhaps, but you're going to want to do it in a way that'll allow you to like go the distance with it, because Aries energy is like great at starting, but not always with the follow through. So you're going to want to sort of plan things out. I think that's the best way to deal with this transit, because then it'll allow you to see all the steps that you need in order to reach that end goal. Okay. So I feel like if you plan it out, you're more likely to stick to it as opposed to just thinking about it and acting on impulse, because I feel like, again, you'll have a great start, but I don't think that you'll have the motivation to keep things going. Okay. So that's sort of how that plays out. And I like that because that's sort of a great start to the week. Even though it's on Tuesday, I find Tuesdays to be a very productive or a great way to get a great day to get things done. Because Monday, you're still sort of breaking out of that weekend mode. Tuesday, I feel like is the first day of the week where you're really about your business and about getting to work. And so this is a great sort of beginning of the week transit to get things done. Okay. Then we have Jupiter conjunct Neptune in Pisces. And this is the star of the week because this is the transit that actually inspired the title of this video, which is Dreams and Fantasies, because it has a very ethereal sort of feel to it. All right. So let's take a look at the chart and see exactly what this looks like. All right. So we have here on Tuesday, we have here at 23 degrees, at 23 degrees right here, we've got Neptune and Jupiter here in Pisces. You can also see the sun at 22 degrees Aries, which is going to be sextile Saturn at 23 degrees Aquarius, okay? And so with this Jupiter conjunct Neptune, it's really about goals, it's about dreams, it's about fantasies being larger than life. Jupiter is the great expander. It makes everything bigger, okay? If we're talking about Pisces, we're talking about emotions, we're talking about sensitivity, but we're also talking about optimism. We're talking about love, particularly with Venus also in Pisces right now. So there's a lot of this very idyllic, romantic, fantastical energy. This is sort of the transit that, like, the first thing that comes to mind is like unicorns, right? They're like beautiful, fantastical, but not necessarily real, okay? And that's sort of how many of us are feeling about life. Things may be too good to be true. I feel like this is also the transit for miracles. So if you are experiencing things in your life that are miracles, like, count your blessings and be grateful, because I feel like this transit is very much conducive to that. Okay. There's also this energy of like spiritual awakening, spiritual development, and spiritual growth. This is really going to be the theme for this month in general, but particularly this week, especially on Tuesday when we have Jupiter and Neptune being at an exact conjunction, right? They're both going to be at 23 degrees Pisces. So many of us are going to be leveling up in terms of our spiritual journeys, our spiritual walks. I feel like many of us are sort of going to be in overdrive when it comes to that. Pisces can be very much about subconscious energy, right? It's like still waters run deep. So a lot of us, even if you may not be conscious of your spiritual journey, I feel like your intuition is going to be lit and you're going to be feeling it more so than thinking about it, okay? So a lot of us are really tapping into our subconscious selves, tapping into our higher selves, and really feeling what it's like to live that way, to sort of walk the talk in a sense, right? Very deep, very over the top. Like I said, Jupiter is the great expander. So a lot of us are going to be feeling this in a very big sort of way. Dream states are really going to be active at this time. So if you feel like you're having a lot of vivid dreams you may not even be understanding, it's definitely this conjunction at work. So my advice, keep a dream journal, because I feel like many of us are going to be receiving very prophetic messages in our dreams. So keep a dream journal by your bed. As soon as you wake up, write them down or put them in your phone, obviously whatever's most comfortable for you, because I feel like anything that is valuable in terms of information about your spirituality, I feel like many of us are going to experience those in our dreams. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. So this transit also lends itself to having your head in the clouds. Business doesn't necessarily do well with a transit like this because you're not paying attention to details. You get the big picture, but when it comes to actually getting it done, it might be a bit difficult. Although, like I said before, on Tuesday, we also have the Sun Sextile Saturn. I'm like tongue-tied today. So on the one hand, I feel like you're going to be able to see the big picture of where you want to go. But in terms of getting the details down, like step by step, it might be pretty difficult. Okay. So Keep things on a broader scale, but just know that it may make execution a little challenging. All right. Like I said before, Jupiter conjunct Neptune, this is like your head in the clouds. This is rose colored glasses and not seeing things for what they really are. And that can lend itself to being taken advantage of. I can't stress this enough. If you listen to the April monthly forecast, I talked about this extensively because all of us are sort of in our spiritual bag right now. We're all about spiritual growth, spiritual awakening, ascension. That's sort of the flavor of the month. But particularly with Jupiter conjunct Neptune, it's like you're going to miss important details and you're not necessarily going to see reality for what it is. Keep in mind that like Neptune is very much associated with film, it's associated with escapism, fantasy. So you may have this perception of someone or something that's definitely not representative of how they are in reality. So you're going to want to be very careful. I feel like this is the transit where, if you've been experiencing a lot of DMs of people talking about, oh, I want to give you a reading or whatever, you already know that that shit is a scam, right? But I feel like that is going to ramp up and it's going to be really hard for you to decipher, should I fuck with this? Should I not? Is this real? The best advice I have for this transit is always go within. If you consult your intuition and your higher self, it's not going to steer you wrong. It's going to be able to help you see the wolves in sheep's clothing. Even if you're not going to see it or think about it, you're going to be able to feel it in your intuition. So if something feels off, it probably is. But again, I feel like everyone's going to be like on cloud nine, not really paying attention to things. And it's going to be like open season for scammers, grifters, all of that stuff. So be vigilant and be careful, okay? Let's see what else we have here. So as I mentioned before, this is sort of the transit of luck. It's the transit of miracles, I believe. So be receptive to those things. I mean, it's sort of a weird paradox, right? I just said be vigilant because there's wolves in sheep's clothing, but at the same time be open to miracles. So you can tell that this transit and all of this Piscean energy is a bit complex. All right. Even though we have the sun in Aries currently, which is all about being direct, right? It's things being blunt, bold, and in your face. I feel like our consciousness may be like that, but our emotions and our spiritual body is very much in the murky waters of Pisces. So it's this complex energy that you really have to navigate carefully. But like I said, while you have to be vigilant, you also want to be open to miracles and really beautiful things unfolding, okay? This sort of transit also calls you to open your mind and experience new things, experience new cultures, take a trip to a place you've never been before where you can really learn through experience, okay? I really think it's a beautiful transit. Like I said, it just has that twinge of, be careful. But all in all, I think it's beautiful. Okay. So moving right along, that same day, we have the moon going into Virgo. Okay. So this week, the moon is going to be in the waxing gibbous phase to culminate into the full moon phase on Saturday. So in terms of what that means, the new moon is all about new beginnings, planting new seeds. As we make our way from the new moon to the full moon, this is where we nurture the seed and we do things in order for the seed to grow into the fruit that we want to enjoy, right? So this is about taking action steps towards your manifestations and your intentions, setting the right environment for your manifestations to come to fruition. And so between the new moon and the full moon, that's sort of our focus intuitively, because we're talking about the moon. So on Tuesday, we have the waxing gibbous moon in the sign of Virgo, okay? And this is going to be great for organizing. So on the one hand, if we're putting all of the astrology of Tuesday like in a nutshell and putting it all together, on the one hand, you're going to be very cognizant of your ambitions and your goals. So it's going to be a great day to plan those things. You're going to be able to see the big picture of it with Jupiter conjunct Neptune. You're going to be hopeful and optimistic with respect to the things that you want to achieve. And then with the moon in Virgo, you're going to want to perfect anything you're doing in order to bring those goals to fruition. You're going to have the ability to perfect it, clean it up, and organize it. So Tuesday is a really great day to get to work. It's not going to be good for little small details Business may be a little frustrating because the energy is a bit complex, but I feel like it's a great day to plan for the future because you're going to be able to understand where you want to go. You're going to see the bigger picture, perhaps, of why you have these ambitions, why you have these goals, and then you're going to be able to perfect and analyze these ambitions with the moon in Virgo. So Tuesday tends to be a pretty productive day. All in all, I'll say get to work. If you're working on something that you deem as your life purpose or your vocation, I think the energy is great for that. If you're in a job that you don't necessarily like, I don't feel like applying any of what I said is really going to help you because you probably don't want to stay there. You're not liking where you are, but you're going to want to think about where you want to be. So even if you're not in your dream job now, I feel like Tuesday is going to be a great day to think and plan for that dream job. All right. That's basically Tuesday in a nutshell. Let's keep it moving. And the next day that we have is Thursday. All right. And so on Thursday, we have Mars moving into Pisces and we have the moon going into Libra. So Mars moving into Pisces is a pretty big deal because I've been talking about Pisces energy all month, right? So last week we had Venus moving into Pisces. This coming Tuesday, we have Jupiter conjunct Neptune in Pisces. And then finally on Thursday, we have Mars moving into Pisces. So we've got 4 planets jam-packed and smushed into Pisces. And when you have more than 3 planets in a sign, it's called a stellium. I'm sorry, if you have more than 2 planets in a particular sign, it's called a stellium, okay? And that just means that the energy is super potent, super concentrated with respect to the planetary energies of each planet that's in this stellium. So, Mars in Pisces is sort of interesting energy. I feel like Mars is very much bold, direct, starting new things. And while it's not in detriment in Pisces, meaning that its energy isn't completely debilitated, I feel like the energy of Mars can get lost in the sauce in Pisces, okay? So, Mars moving into Pisces, it's a feeling of being motivated to spiritual pursuits and endeavors. So typically when we think of Mars, we think of ambition, we think of goals, sort of like I mentioned before, but in a very direct way. So Mars energy is very well directed towards goals concerning like money or career and business because you want to hit those things head on. But when Mars is in Pisces, we're often feeling like, okay, it's a great transit to plan a trip or take long distance travel, okay? But it's also more, you're motivated to really like get down to your spirituality, motivated to perhaps ascend, motivated maybe even to learn something new spiritually. And you don't attack it, you don't attack this goal in the typical Mars fashion. Like I said, Mars is all about being direct. So when it comes to these spiritual goals, I feel like you're going to be very sort of roundabout that sort of Piscean energy when it comes to accomplishing these things. So you're very much going to be listening to your intuition, looking for signs and synchronicities. That's sort of how Mars in Pisces plays out, okay? But what I do like about Mars in Pisces is that we tend to think about others more so than ourselves. We put others' needs ahead of ourselves. And so this is great, especially now. I feel like right now in the world, we need this more than ever. So this almost fosters peace, particularly with Venus also being in Pisces. I feel like peace and, some sort of peaceful accord is very possible right now with this Pisces stellium. But again, Mars in Pisces is all about putting the needs of others ahead of our own. This could motivate you to do charity work, to be altruistic, to be philanthropic. Helping your fellow man is sort of how Mars in Pisces plays out. So obviously, that's very beautiful energy. And that same day, we have the moon moving into the sign of Libra, which is all about relationships. So our relationship to our fellow man is really going to come into play. And a lot of us are going to be very much willing to help others, very much willing to be sympathetic and empathetic to the needs and situations of others. So again, I feel like it's very beautiful energy. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Is there anything else here? Concerning Mars and Pisces, no, I feel like I pretty much covered everything. Okay. Oh, especially again with the moon in Libra, like I said, it's all about peace and diplomacy. So if you have been having any conflict with anybody, if you've been fighting with anybody, I feel like Thursday would be a really great day to make amends. I feel like both of you, or however many of you are involved, you're not only going to be able to see everyone's point of view, but you're going to be able to relate to it, which will allow you to find a common ground so you can at least move forward peacefully. Okay, so Thursday is very much a day of peacemaking, of making nice with everybody, being able to see both sides of a situation. So it's sort of, pretty feel good energy, I would say. Great day again for resolving conflict. All right. So then next up, did I talk? Okay, let's take a look at the chart. All right. So this is, well, here it's going to be Friday, but this is the chart for Thursday. So as you can see, we have the moon in Libra, like I was mentioning before, right here at 4 degrees Libra. And then we also have, again, we've got Jupiter conjunct Neptune, this time at 24 degrees. And then we have Mars moving into Pisces right here. It's not in the same, it technically wouldn't be a conjunction with Venus because they're still too far apart, but that Venusian energy is still very potent. So here you've got Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune all here in Pisces. Okay, so again, jam-packed day, lots of stuff going on. All right, so next up, we've got Saturday. And the second star of the show this week is the full moon in Libra, which is going down on Saturday. So like I just mentioned before, the moon had already moved into Libra since Thursday. So relationships have really been on our hearts, right? Because we're talking about emotions with the moon. Relationships have really been on our hearts, and we've really been feeling things with respect to relationships since Thursday. And then on Saturday, the full moon is really going to illuminate our most closest relationships. Now, full moons are when the sun and the moon are opposite. So the moon is in Libra and the sun is going to be in Aries. And that means that it's going to highlight any imbalances that we have with respect to the relationships in our lives. It's sort of this me versus we energy. Are you too much on the me side, or are you too much on the we side? Regardless, I feel like the full moon is going to show you the answer to that question, which can be a little jarring for some of us. But regardless of how jarring it is, again, full moons illuminate. So it shows us where we need to put our attention so things can get back into balance, okay? So the full moon in Libra has some really interesting astrology in and of itself. The major thing is that both the sun and the moon are going to be square to Pluto, okay? And Pluto is the planet of transformation. So whatever comes up at this full moon is going to be very transformative. Now, if we're talking about relationships and we're talking about other people, and relationships don't necessarily mean romantic relationships. These could be family relationships. These could be friendships, relationships with your coworkers or employees. It all depends on where this is going down in your chart, okay? When we're talking about relationships, oftentimes if things are out of whack or things are out of balance, we immediately think about what the other person has to do to change, right? It's like, oh my gosh, if only he paid more attention to me, I feel like this relationship would be better. Or if only she did this relationship wouldn't be so crazy or wouldn't be this miserable, right? But the thing about this particular full moon, particularly with the square to Pluto, is that it's going to show us what we need to change within ourselves in order for our relationships to be better, okay? Just generally speaking, it's an exercise in futility to change your outer circumstances. Like if you focus all your energy on changing your partner or giving them ultimatums or doing anything that you think is going to make them change their behavior, doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship is going to change. Oftentimes it makes it worse. When you become the person that you would like to experience in a relationship, your partner is going to mirror that to you. And I feel like this full moon is going to show you exactly that concept, okay? I feel like if you remain open and if you really take a hard look at yourself, I feel like you really can change your relationships for the better, okay? Very transformative, very deep though. Whenever we're talking about Pluto, it's all about intensity, it's all about depth and substance. So many of us are going to be deep diving into our psyches, deep diving into our repressed emotions. Because if your relationship isn't the best, right? Let's say it's a friendship and you feel like there's issues of loyalty. Have you experienced perhaps betrayal in your past that's playing out in this current relationship? I feel like this full moon is going to illuminate those things so you can fix them within yourself and then therefore see the changes reflective positively in your relationships, okay? Again, it's going to show us balance where things in our relationships are out of whack. It's also going to challenge us to step outside of our comfort zones in an emotional sense, which can be very, very jarring for many of us because emotional upheaval, especially if we're talking about repressed emotions coming up, never feels comfortable, right? But it's actually in working through those emotions and stepping outside of your comfort zone that you're going to be able to experience the change within yourself and thus your relationship. So it's really important that you don't like sidestep anything that comes up. It's really important that you just don't shove it under the rug or ignore it because it's gonna come back up in one way, shape, or form. And you're like, it's just gonna repeat itself, whether it's with that partner or that friend or that family member or with somebody else. If you don't take care of it, it's going to rear its ugly head at some point. So definitely be cognizant of what comes up and process what comes up. It's going to be extremely important to do that. Okay. And in doing so, you're going to have this energy of peace and tranquility.
Sorry, could you say that again?
Ooh.
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
That was Siri. I guess Siri needs some astrological advice for this week as well. But yes, I feel like peace and tranquility is a major theme of this week, and you can definitely have it in your relationships if you do the emotional work on yourself. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. Yeah, some of the other astrology for the full moon, which I'm not going to get into because that's just going to be super duper detailed, which I don't necessarily think you need right now, is that you're going to like experience a feeling of emotional stability. A lot of us, this full moon is going to affect our relationships with family. Like again, based on the astrology around this particular full moon, family relationships are really going to come into the fold. And I feel like working through some of these issues is ultimately going to heal not only yourself, obviously, but family relationships as well. And when you're feeling emotionally stable with family or at home, it provides a great foundation for you to go out into the world and be successful. And I feel like many of us are going to be gifted that in terms of this full moon in Libra. So again, if I have to sum up sort of the advice for the full moon in Libra, I would say that you should definitely work through whatever comes up. Work on your emotions, feel them, process them, and focus more on yourself in terms of what needs to change. Changing family, changing your friends, changing your romantic partner is not going to give you the emotional stability you need in that relationship. Everything comes from within yourself first. So work on you and your relationships will follow suit. Okay. That's my advice for the full moon in Libra. All right. And so that night, let's get the chart up here so we can see this as well. Oops. Still trying to navigate this software because it's like, whoa. Okay, so this is Saturday. All right, we've got the moon in Libra right here. Oops. We've got the moon in Libra right here, which is opposite the sun in Aries right here at 26 degrees. Okay. Yeah. As you can see, there's a lot of trines and squares coming from the full moon, but I'm actually going to do a full moon in Libra video that I'll probably post on Tuesday. So if you want to know more about the full moon, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you can catch that video and be prepared for this full moon coming up. All right. like I said, that same day, we have the moon moving into Scorpio, okay? And so a couple of hours after the full moon occurs, we've got the moon moving into Scorpio. And so already, sort of, we're feeling a lot of emotions because we've got Pluto in the mix, making things intense. And then things are going to immediately get a little more intense with Scorpio entering the mix, namely the moon moving into Scorpio that same night. So, really, you're going to want to take a serious deep dive. Actually, I don't think you're going to want to take a deep dive. I think that's just what's going to end up happening. And you're really going to be in the mix of your emotions as it relates to relationships. And you're really going to be feeling all the feels when it comes to that. Again, might not necessarily be comfortable for many of us, especially if you have a lot of repressed emotions, emotional wounds and trauma, things of that nature. But I feel like it's going to be a little intense. But the good thing about the moon moving into Scorpio is that it allows you to get rid of bad habits that may be affecting your relationships. Especially old fears, limiting beliefs, bad habits. Use Saturday in order to really reflect on the type of person you are and how you show up in relationships and what emotions do you bring with you into relationships, because I feel like it's not only going to be insightful, but it's going to be able to show you where you may be lacking or where you may be bringing a little too much emotional baggage into your relationships so that you can get rid of them, so that you can eradicate them, and so that you can really have the relationships that you desire. Okay. And again, full moon in Libra video coming out on Tuesday or Wednesday. So again, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss it. All right. And then finally, we come to Sunday and we have Mercury sextile Venus. I love this particular transit because it's really one of those feel good kind of transits. This is a transit where you're going to want to hang out with friends, perhaps do like a nice Sunday dinner, even with family. There's a lot of socializing and friendliness going on with this transit. So definitely on Sunday, you're going to want to be social, get out there and have some fun. Okay. Feeling love and affection becomes a little easier because it becomes easier to express it. So Sunday is also a great day to have a date. Like if you're looking to just hang out with your boo or whatever, even if it's just at home, Netflix and chill with a nice little dinner, perfect day for that because love and affection are expressed a lot easier with this transit. So you're going to be feeling all the love, which is great because clearly after everything I said about Saturday, with it being emotionally intense, and the imbalances in your relationships sort of, coming out and coming up to the surface. If you're able to do the emotional work, and I'm not saying it's like Saturday is going to be intense and then Sunday is going to be like night and day. All of this is sort of happening at the same time. So if you're able to sort of heal yourself and thus heal your relationships, when Sunday comes around, you guys can really spend quality time together, particularly if you're talking about a love relationship, but even family. Like it's a great Sunday fun day on Sunday with Mercury sextile Venus, okay? This is also a good transit to ask for favors. So if you need some money from someone, if you need someone to do a favor for you, send something on your behalf, whatever, do it on Sunday because all of us are going to have this extra charm and sort of magnetism. So Sunday is a great day to ask for favors, okay? Doing business is also really favored on Sunday. So if you are someone who works on the weekend, again, expressing yourself. I want to say like expressing love and affection is really easy with this transit, but you don't necessarily want to do that in business, but that sort of translate into business in the sense that people are going to be open to what you're selling, what you're giving, what you're providing. So you're definitely going to want to do a little business on Sunday if you can, especially if you're like an entrepreneur who works every day, or if you're someone who just happens to work on Sundays, business is going to do pretty well as well. Okay. And again, this is also that feel good energy that can resolve conflict. So, again, if a lot of the repressed emotions and relationship issues are coming up with the full moon, I feel like you can resolve them by Sunday. So, the weekend is pretty interesting in the sense that you may be able to really get your relationships on the right track. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's really going to push you out of your comfort zone to address your own shit, right? But if you're able to do that, like you really can turn your relationships around in a weekend. Okay. So it's a really good weekend for getting your relationships on track. And again, romantic, family, friends, even coworkers or bosses or anything like that. It's a really good transit to get your relationships on track. Okay. And that's pretty much the week in a nutshell. I feel like we have a lot of great stuff going on, a lot of interesting energy, a lot of spiritual growth and development, relationship repair. So it's definitely a mixed bag for the week, but I think a lot of us can get ahead in our lives on a spiritual, on a subconscious, and on an emotional level this week. So I feel like it's going to be really good. All right. So hopefully you gained a lot of valuable information from this video. That's always my intent, is to keep you up to date and in the know when it comes to the astrology for the month or the week. And I just hope that you have a great week. I hope that you're able to use this energy to your advantage. And by the time that we come back here next week, I would love to see a lot of you having expanded spiritually and repaired some of your most important relationships. All right. So, again, have a great week, and I will see you next week. Take care.